following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Don't adjust your screen. There is nothing wrong. You're about to enter a world where the very concept of time is rendered obsolete by the sheer power of entertainment. You're about to enter the Boggis Hour. Deep in the heart of the Game City, the host of the Boggis Hour, Frank.
And welcome to the Boggis Hour. Very happy to have as our first guest, comedian, writer, actor, and storyteller, Frank Santorelli. He's a veteran of the Boston comedy club scene. He's been in such movies as Meet the Parents, and he was a regular on the HBO hit series, The Sopranos. He was Georgie the bartender. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Santorelli. Frank Santorelli, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Good to be here. Thanks for coming. So we're going to do some a little conversating about you.
About my career?
About your comedy career and your acting career. So let's start from the beginning. How was your childbirth? Was it easy?
I do remember it, believe it or not. They say 1% of the people in the world remember their childbirth. I started in Cleveland, Ohio. Can you believe it?
So you started doing stand-up in Cleveland.
That's correct. I walked into an open mic night. A friend of mine was bugging me. You should go to the Cleveland Comedy Club. You're a funny guy. And he kept bugging me, this friend of mine. And I was an actor, and I didn't really know what I was doing.
Were you an actor in high school?
Yeah, in the plays in high school. And then I went to college for a year, studied theater at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, which was a good school at the time.
Right.
And Paul Newman went there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for one semester or something like that. And I got kicked out.
Nice.
Paul Newman. Came back with my tail between my legs and didn't know what I was going to do. Worked there Fridays, and then I walked into the Cleveland Comedy Club. Unannounced, a friend of mine signs my name to the list. This is for real.
Open mic night.
That's correct. A Sunday night, packed, 25 acts.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And I went up.
And so this is 81.
1981 at the Cleveland Comedy Club.
Just as the comedy business is starting
Exactly. It was exploding onto the scene.
The rocket's
Absolutely.
just starting to fire off its afterburners.
And a brand new Cleveland Comedy Club. The first act there was Rodney Dangerfield.
Wow.
Yeah. Like about 3 years before that.
Okay.
Drew Carey was working there.
Which is where he started too?
Yes,
Cleveland?
and I never met the guy.
That's funny.
So I went to this open mic night. I'm sitting in the audience, and they literally said, "This next comedian is Frank Santorelli." And I went, I thought I was hallucinating. You know what I mean? I was like, I think I just said my name. And I look over at my friend, and he's kind of going like this. He signed my name to the list.
Ah. Oh, so you're just in the audience?
Oh, I'm in the audience.
Oh, gosh.
And now it looks like I'm chickening out. So the crowd goes, you. They're pointing at me. And so I go up. And I'm sensational. No,
Really?
I'm kidding. I did a bunch of stuff. I goofed around, and I won the $50.
Nice.
I beat everybody.
Which
but
1981
they were not
was...
professionals. Nobody in the show was a professional comedian, including me, but I had no stage fright, and I was a theater guy, and I had all this stuff. I was balancing things on my nose, the skipper from Gilligan's Island, all the stuff that's in my act to this day. That was, 1981, and I just went up, goofed around, and I won the $50. So the guy, as he's paying me at the end of the night, he goes, you got to come back next week and defend your title. And I go, really? And he goes, yeah, you got to defend your title. I said, no, I live in New York. I got a job in New York. I'm a waiter, and I'm taking acting classes. I can't know. He's okay, well, I'll talk to you later. And I walked out. Well, by midweek, I was like, And so I called work in New York, and I said, I can't make it. I'm sick, or whatever I said. I don't remember. And I went, and I won again.
Nice.
And then I won again the next week. And I quit my job in New York, and I just left everything there. Oh, it was awful. Bottom line, I start working at the club as a MC. So my first job is on a Wednesday, and it's with Rob Bartlett. I don't know if you know who he
yeah,
was.
sure.
He was a voice guy for Ibis. Now it's not packed. There's 20 people in the audience. It's Cleveland. It's 1981. Nobody's got any work. People are mad. They just paid $20 to get in the door. And I'm the MC, and I go out, and I'm terrible. My first 10 minutes is terrible because now this isn't the open mic night. This is the professional night, and I've only been on stage for 40 minutes total in my life.
Right.
And I bomb horribly. It's horrible. I bomb, and I bring up the middle act. I go in the bathroom. I'm splashing water on my face. I'm just about to ready to throw up in the sink.
Make it stop.
And there's a knock at the door. And I push the door open, and it's Rob Bartlett. And he goes, "What are you doing, man?" And I go, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Did you think that was funny?" And I went, "Oh my God." He goes, "Because it wasn't. You know what you are? You're a journeyman comic. You should get out of the business. The business doesn't want you and it doesn't need you." And I went like this. And he goes, "Just kidding, man. That was hilarious." He let me off the hook. I was like, he goes, you're hilarious. Don't worry about it. You're not getting laughs, but you're hilarious. This is Rob Bartlett telling me, even though I bombed, I'm funny.
And if you don't know anything about the comedy business, as an MC, you get to go up in front of a cold crowd. You get to warm it up. It steals you to being in front of people. It makes you a better performer.
Absolutely.
It makes you able to handle,
Absolutely.
handle the relationship with an audience because you're kind of shepherding all the other acts through the show, and the people get to know you and like
That's
you.
correct.
And even if you're not funny, you're somebody that's likable. You're somebody that's he's bringing up the next person. So you're
kind of the representative of the club,
right?
And that's what I was. I was the house MC at the Cleveland Comedy Club for probably 3 years.
Yeah.
And I saw everybody: Seinfeld, Roseanne, Tim Allen, you name it. They came to Cleveland, and I was the MC.
Right.
And
so for years and years, you would be watching TV or a movie. I've worked with that guy. I've worked with her. I've worked with them.
Yes. And then when I used to go to New York, like in the 80s, people would remember me.
And that would be it, and that's another foot in the door. Oh, this kid I remember from.
Yeah. And it was great. And so I was the house MC there, and then a friend of mine named Phil Van T, who you probably remember, big tall guy, he moved to New York.
Did he have a shtick?
He did. His shtick was nasty, mean. He would go, "I got a joke for you. I ran over and killed a German Shepherd puppy." "Here's another little joke." He would go like that. "Oh my gosh." People would go, "Oh my God." He'd go, "I'm not here to make friends." He tells me, "Come to Boston."
And this is what, 83?
85.
85, okay.
85.
And so right now, that time, now Boston is pretty
exploding.
Much like one of the epicenters.
7 clubs. You knew there were 7 clubs.
Right,
Stitches, Played Against Sam's, Giggles, Comedy Connection. There was 8, 9 clubs. And you could work continuously. Colleges, there was 120 colleges to do. There was one-nighters all over the place.
Right.
It was amazing.
And this was right around the time that I was actually starting to watch live comedy. I went from there was a Wednesday night the next town over from where I lived, in the Amherst Country Club.
Amherst Country Club.
So Wednesday nights they had an open, a regular show, a 3-person show. Mm-hmm. And Wednesday nights, and Amherst is not a big town, but there was, 100, 50 people there every Wednesday night.
I remember that.
And
I remember that place. That was a good
Sweeney
place.
And Leary and all of these, people who've been in the comedy scene forever. That was one of the great places. Dana Gould.
Yes.
He was like a 19, 20-year-old
That was the only place that we got a tip.
Oh,
they
really?
tipped us. The woman that was the manager there. I was supposed to get $100. She gave me 120. And I looked in the envelope and I went, "Oh, she gave me too much." And she looks at me and she goes, "I gave you some extra." I go, "You did?" I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?" Everybody said the same thing. No one has ever done that before or since.
So you moved to Boston?
I came to Boston and Phil said, "Come here for 10 days."
Yeah.
And so I go, okay. And about the 3rd day, I'm staying at Joe Yanetti's mother's house in Eastie.
Yep.
And long story short, he goes, "Let's go to Tony V's open mic night." No, don't know who Tony V is.
And where was that?
At the Comedy Connection at Charles Playhouse.
Charles Playhouse.
I walk in the door. There's Kristen, who is his wife now, was working the door. And she says, "Come on in." And Phil says, "This is a friend of mine. He's a comedian." Well, Kristen got up out of her chair and ran over to Tony because somebody didn't show up. Back then, it was very structured. It wasn't just like guys could walk in. It was very structured. Your time was 5 minutes, and if you did over your time, you didn't work there for another 6 months. They were very strict about it. So one guy didn't show up. So Tony goes, "You're a comedian. You're next." Now this is after Phil tells me you're not going to get up because there's a million comedians.
Right.
No one who books comedy ever hangs out there.
When you walk in the door and they're throwing you on.
Billy Downs and Paul Barkley are there in the room, and I'm the next comedian, and nobody knows me. And I walk up, and Tony goes, "A guy from Cleveland, friend of mine, Frank Santorelli," and I go up and I blow the place apart.
Really?
I'm not kidding. Barry Crimmins was there.
Well, that was the dynamics of that room were incredible, right? It was just this.
Oh, that room was the
small,
greatest comedy room in
compact,
the world.
low roof.
It was the greatest comedy room of all time.
Yeah,
the Comedy
the best.
Connection at the Charles Playhouse was the greatest. People came from all over the country and all over the world to work that club.
Right.
It was such an intimate, perfect setting for comedy. And I went up there half energy and blew the place apart.
Right.
And when I came off stage, everybody was like, "Who's that?" Because nobody knew who I was.
So you're this.
And I killed. And Paul Barkley gave me.
And so you're talking about the bookers, the comics.
Oh my God, everybody was
like,
there.
Wow, this guy's
everybody
great.
was there, and they saw me, and then I got work for the next 15 days in a row. I worked.
Right.
And then
back then, the business has changed significantly since then.
Totally.
But back then you're talking like weekends were 2 and 3 shows.
Well, it was
going
like this. It
from
was
one
like
show-
50. I can show you my day book. $50, $100, college show for $300, back to the Comedy Connection for $100 spot, $50 like that. So within 2 weeks, I had $3,000 in a drawer cash, and I said to Phil, "Take some of this money." And he goes, "What?" I said, "Take some of this money." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got like $3,000 here." He goes, "Well,
It was
what do you
because
do?"
of you.
He goes, "Why don't you go get an apartment?" I went, "Oh my gosh." And I went down to Newbury Street, got an apartment on Marlborough Street in the Back Bay, which was hysterical because it was a tenement house at the end up by Mass Ave next to a dry cleaner, a laundromat.
Oh, nice.
So I had the worst place on Marlborough Street.
Right. So
Anyway, I started working in Boston.
And were you headlining by that time?
No, but I was doing shows, here and there. I was emceeing. I was bopping all over the place. I was doing Stitches and Nicks. I was,
For the audience, the standard show setup is an opener, a middler, and a headliner. A headliner is actually somebody's name that's supposed to mean something.
Right.
It's changed a little bit. Now there's a closer. The dynamics of the business has changed a bit. But years ago, it was the headliner is Rodney Dangerfield. That's a name of somebody that you know.
Sure.
But a standard show. But there was also the Boston one where you would have like 3 guys, and sometimes you'd have the headliner would host.
Yes.
And would also,
that's interesting that you said that. Yes, because in the old days, Sweeney would go first,
right.
do his 22 minutes and get out.
Right.
Gavin would go up and do a half hour, get out. Meanie, out. The next 2 comedians, me and Brian Kiley. So people are going like this. They're putting their coats on. And I'm going out there going, "So I grew up in an Italian family," and people are putting their coats on going, "What is he doing?" I swear to God. That's how the shows ran. You're the new guy, you go last.
Wow. So when did you start headlining?
Probably 5 years.
Yeah.
It took about 5 years.
From beginning to
Because colleges are what did that.
So you were
You
college
had to do
headliner.
45 minutes at a no, by yourself. There was no 3 acts. It was they would
right,
hire
right.
you to
It was
go
a
to
college-
UMass Amherst. You were there.
One
you were getting
person.
$300, and you were doing 45 minutes. Can you do 45 minutes? I was like, yeah, I can do 45 minutes. And I would, that's like you said, it steals you. It makes you better because now, hey, I got to stand out there. I got to stand out there and do 45 minutes, and in front of a bunch of college kids who really don't care.
Were colleges easier to do back then?
Yes.
it seemed
Well,
like
I
it
was younger. You know what I mean? Like right
Right.
now, I'm 57. Nobody hires me to do colleges anymore. I swear.
right. Sure.
Nobody. And they don't want me because I'm 57. These
Right.
kids are 18, 19. They want Carrot Top.
You're having a pretty successful stand-up career. When do and then you had some experience as an actor.
Yeah, well, I got a sitcom. In 1996, I had my own sitcom.
Let's be frank.
That's correct. It did not make it. I
So you
I had a
did the
failed
pilot.
sitcom. And back then, each network, there was probably 6 at the time. There was ABC, CBS, NBC, then there was...
TBS.
there was the
WB,
WB, which was Channel 56 here, but the
Right.
WB was a national thing.
Right.
It wasn't a major network yet. And it was the WB. Michigan T. Frog was
Right.
that tap
Hello,
dancing.
my baby.
Hello, my baby.
Hello,
Hello, my honey. That guy. He was their logo.
Right.
So it was the WB sitcom starring Frank Santorelli. It was not called Let's Be Frank. It was called Family Heat. So I was a cop They were trying to make it like, I'm a cop, but I also have a family.
Yeah.
They used an African-American guy named Ron Canada. Yeah, he's a very famous indie actor. Good, and he's a good friend of mine still to this day. He was my partner because there was a lot of African-American shows on the WB.
Right.
Parenthood,
Right.
Frank's Place. There was all kinds of so we tried to mesh the two. Let's have an African-American guy and a white guy together as cops.
So almost like the buddy
Yes.
thing.
And so there's a lot of us in a cop car.
Sopranos.
Yes. That's
So
years
that's
that was 79.
99?
99. 98 actually is when I auditioned for it. And we actually shot an episode in 98.
So was the series already underway? No.
Not at all.
It was all...
I was in the pilot. I'm in the pilot. I'm in the very first episode,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah, no, I got hired to be Georgie, the bartender, in the Bada Bing for one episode called a day player. So you're supposed to come in for one day and you're gone. 16 episodes and 8 years later, I was still on the show.
Right.
And I maintained that it was me that did that because I was on the set of The Sopranos balancing things on my nose. I actually did a good job. They didn't expect a lot from me because they heard I was a comedian. And they just like, what's the next? These are all actors. It's like, wait a minute, there's a comedian on the set? What are you talking about?
Right.
Well, I was goofing around. I was juggling lemons, goofing around and trying to make James Gandolfini laugh and stuff like that. And
Doing
they
like
liked me.
comics too.
And so when I was done, they put these huge tattoos on me.
Oh, yeah.
To be in the show.
How long did that take?
David Chase walked in. And said, put some tattoos on this guy. No kidding. That's how it happened. And the girl goes, excuse me? Put some tattoos. Go crazy. His whole arms, both sides.
So almost every episode you're wearing like
the same
crappy...
ones. Oh, they had to put them
really?
on. Oh, it was ridiculous. They had to be exactly the same. And she went nuts. She did all kinds of stuff, Chinese writing and all this stuff. So at the very end of the day, I'm done with my one day. And I'm getting ready to leave. And David Chase comes into the trailer, the makeup trailer, and goes, take a picture of his tattoos.
Then nobody thought of that?
Well, no, he said it. And when he walked out, the girl goes, that's huge. I said, what do you mean? She said,
Because that means you're coming back.
Right. I was like, it does? She said, well, it doesn't mean you're coming back, but they're ready for you if you are, because they have to have those tattoos. People are nuts with television.
Right.
You do anything wrong, they get 100 phone calls an hour about, hey, that last time you did this and this was over here. And,
Right. I'm pretty sure I saw a bottle of Fiji water on one of the tables in Selma.
Is that right?
I think so.
I bet
Like,
you
there
that's
was like a
true.
bottle-
Somebody said light sockets. You can watch a movie in like the 20s or the 30s, and you'll see a modern light socket, which they didn't have back then.
Right.
They were weird shaped. And anyway, you're absolutely
So-
right. So anyway, I got on the show, and they did call me.
And
They
so
did call me.
what was the very first scene in the pilot?
My very first scene.
You're at the Bada Bing.
I'm at the Bada Bing, and
Which is the
I don't
strip
even
club.
know who James Gandolfini is at this point. I knew he was in Crimson Tide, a couple movies here and there. He was actually not even that big a star in any of those movies. And someone said James Gandolfini. Didn't know who he was. He came in. He was very nice to me. And the very first scene was him walking into the bar. And all he does, I'm standing there, and I go, hey, Tony, the phone's for you. It was a guy. Well, he kept messing up his line. He kept walking in and messing up what he was saying to me. Georgie, listen, if somebody calls, and he kept messing it up. Stop. Back to one. Now, there's strippers coming down poles. There's people in motion. There's 40 people around the bar. There's 100 people.
Big scene.
It's huge. He's coming into the bar, and he keeps messing up. And that's not good, because if I mess up now, that's not good. Because
Right.
if he gets it right, I got to get it right. So I only had very few lines, but they had to be said right at the right time and stuff like that. And I had to, just like right now on camera, Frank, you're leaning too far this way. When you say that line, your head's got to be a quarter of an
Right.
inch this way.
Right.
You know how television, it's insane.
Sure.
So I'm like, trying to remember my lines.
It makes it tough to. Oftentimes, it makes it tough to be
people have
natural.
no idea.
Because there's all of these other extenuating
Right. In the old days,
aspects of what you've got to do.
absolutely. It's
where your feet
backbreaking
are,
work. People
where
think
the
that
other
these movie
person's coming
stars are
in.
coddled and all that. It's ridiculously hard.
It is
It's
hard.
ridiculously hard. And it's very underrated as an art form because of that. People think, oh, these spoiled millionaires and everything. Are you kidding me? It's total work. It's total concentration. Everything has to be balletted out so that you know what's going to happen. The stripper's got to come down the pole. And I did that a couple times on the set of The Sopranos, messed up with 150 people in motion.
Right.
Okay, back to zero.
Yeah.
And the director came over to me and went, you're going to get this right on this take, right, Frank? And I was like, yeah, no pressure. You know, only 150 people on The Sopranos, you know.
What's the most memorable experience about doing that show?
Steve Van Zandt, who was clearly the nicest man on that show. And I maintain because he was a millionaire 25 years before the Sopranos got on.
And if you don't know, Steve Van Zandt
the
played
lead guitarist.
Silvio, what was his last name? I can't
Silvio
remember.
Dante.
Silvio Dante, and he was a lead guitarist for Bruce Springsteen.
For Bruce Springsteen's band.
But he wore the big
do-rag, the
rug.
do-rag, right. He was like the nicest guy, and he would say, Frankie, and we're in a real bar, we're in the real Bada Bing, give everybody a drink. Give everybody a drink. And so it's really funny. I'm pouring drinks for everybody. It's a real bar, you know, so I'm opening up beers, and I'm going like this, and I give James Gandolfini a shot. He's got his head down like this. And he looks at it, and he goes like this. He thought it was water. So he's like, and he runs off, and the director comes over, and he goes, stay away from Jim. Stay away from Jim. Could you do me a favor, just stay away from him? And sure enough, an hour later, he comes in, and he gives me a bear hug. And the ink from my tattoos ruined, absolutely destroyed this $700 cream-colored satin shirt that he's wearing. And they go, stay away from Jim. He hugged me. He came up and hugged me. They're like, stay away from Jim. Stay away from Jim. It was hilarious. They thought I was like this bad luck. So anyway, it was a great experience. James Gandolfini was truly the nicest man. I really, he was such a real guy. He was nice. It was like, when he died, the next door neighbor became famous.
Right.
Nothing changed. He was the same guy. He was a guy from Jersey who hit like they write about.
Right.
You can't write it any better than that. It's like he was the heavyweight champion of the world. The opening was at the Radio City Music Hall with 5,000 people.
Right.
People hanging from the balconies going, Tony! Tony! Not Jim. Tony.
Right.
Tony Soprano.
So he's the character.
Unbelievable. It was amazing. Yeah, so I did it the whole time I was on. The whole time, the whole run. 16 episodes.
Entertainment tends to be that. You tend to be defined by, you know, high points of your career. Academy Award winner.
I mean, you don't get any bigger than that.
Sure.
Still to this day, when my show is over and I tell people who I am now, because in the old days, when the show was on the air, who do you play? Because it was very sporadic. Every 15 episodes, you wouldn't see me. And you're in the Bada Bing? You work there? What's your character? Now, Georgie from the Bada Bing. Oh, he's the guy that got beat up all the time. We used to feel so bad for you. We knew you were going to get beat up. And for real, when I walked into the crew, there'd be hanging lights and stuff, would start screeching like Thunderdome. Georgie's here! Blood! There's gonna be blood! I'd walk in like I was like Genghis Khan, like a big time wrestler. I'd walk in and people were like, Georgie! Nobody knew me as Frank. It was Georgie.
So I'd like to ask you about what your best stand-up show is, or you know.
The one that sticks out the most is I did New Year's Eve at the Wang Center for 3,500 people. It was unreal.
And that's New Year's, so everybody's out to have a good time.
It was unreal. I wish I had taped it. I can't believe I didn't tape it or even have cameras in place or anything like that.
And that's a
it was
beautiful venue.
Fabulous. And it was New Year's Eve, and energy was just off the charts, and I killed. And what was interesting was there was an interpreter.
Oh, really?
And there was a deaf contingent of about maybe 50 people sitting off stage right here. And so I'm doing my act, and I look over and I see this girl going 100 miles an hour. And she's trying to keep up with me, what I'm saying, and she's literally performing to these 50 people, and they're not laughing at all. They're just sitting there. And there's really no way, because my act is very visual.
Yeah.
So it didn't really translate. So I knew they weren't laughing, but everybody else I was killing the whole place. And these people were, and she's going 100 miles an hour. And I stopped and I went, how about a hand for Sylvia? And everybody went, oh, yeah, how about a hand for Sylvia? I gave her a nice, everybody applauded. It was really nice. And I stopped and I went, we're sleeping together. Now, she has to tell them what I just said. So she goes, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, and she stops and she goes, and she looks over at me and she goes, and she does some kind of motion with her hands. And all the deaf people go, ha, 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 like we're sleeping together. Right. So she is absolutely embarrassed beyond what you could possibly believe.
And you've won over that
killed
contingent of the crowd.
these deaf people.
Nice.
Because she has to make this motion some kind of sex she does with her hands. I forget what it was. we're sleeping together, and she kind of stopped, looked over at me, and said, all right, here we go. I'm doing it. And boom, they roared. So wait a minute, there's 2 more shows that night. You don't realize that was the best one. Then it got smaller, and then the last one was probably 500 people.
In a 3,000 seat
Right.
venue, which
It was good, but the bottom line was she came over to me after the first show. She goes, could you not do that the next show? Could you not do that in the next show? I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm a comedian. We go on instinct. I said, it was there. I went for it. I'm sorry. And she goes,
right
it's
for the
okay, but
picking.
just don't do it the next show. I said, okay.
That's funny.
Isn't that funny?
So that's the best, worst.
Oh, the worst show.
And then there's probably, that's a loaded question because there's usually
Oh, I got
so
20 of
many.
them. But the worst one was a place over in, it was Rockland. It was Rockland, Mass. It was
Yeah.
at the, like a Holiday Inn or something. And it was big, 300 people. And there's a table full of people in the front doing drugs. They're getting up and going into the bathroom and doing drugs. And I see this. I see from off stage. They eat up the first comedian. They eat up the second comedian. And I'm going over to the manager and the bouncer, and I'm going, this has got to stop. You got to do something about this. They walk over to the table and sort of reprimand them a couple times. Doesn't matter. They just keep talking. And they're really obnoxious, and they're right up front. And there's 300 people that want to see a comedy show.
Sure.
These people are being jerks, you know.
And a small group of people.
Tiny
Even
room.
one person can
So I go, that's
literally snowball a show.
You guys are out of here. And I walk off stage. And I go in the back and I go, get those people out of here right now. And he goes, really? The bouncer. And he's into it now because he's the bouncer and he wants to do his job. So he walks over, and I'm telling you, there's 15 people sitting around this table. And I'm gone. I'm in the back. And I'm pacing back and forth. And I'm like, I can't believe these people. And I'm mad and everything. All of a sudden, I go, you know what? Let me see what's going on. And I peek through the door. Everyone at the table is gone but one guy. He won't leave. The bouncer's going, no, sir, you got to leave. You got to leave. He's going, nope, not leaving. I come in the room, and everybody's like, oh, it's the comedian. He's back. A couple of people go, you know, like this. And I go, John, that's okay. That's okay. Let him go. Let him go. So, buddy, what's up? And he's sitting there like this, all by himself. Everybody's gone. He's like this. And I go, what's up? And he goes, I don't know. I said, you and your friends totally ruined this show. He goes, he starts to cry. And I go, he's going, it's my birthday. He goes, it's my birthday. No. My blood went cold. 4 women in the back of the room, 4 middle-aged women got up. You ruined his birthday. You ruined his... People are getting up, giving me the finger. It was unbelievable. I said, folks, these people were doing drugs in the bathroom. They were ruining the show. I threw them out because they were ruining the show. None of you people are on my side. They're like, no, you ruined his birthday. I pushed my way through the crowd. I go, show's over. I pushed my way through the crowd. Right. I pushed my way out into the lobby. And there's the people I just had thrown out. Oh, yeah. They come at me. One of the guys comes at me. Oh, yeah, it's fisticuffs. I got to kick him and keep him away from me. Oh, yeah, cops. Wow. The cops come. They chased me out into the parking lot. And as I drove away, they threw keys and beer cans at my car.
That's this business.
And I did about 7 minutes of comedy.
Wow.
Yeah, out of the hour I was supposed to do, I did 7 minutes. It's my birthday. He goes like that.
Birthday. Finally, most unusual.
Most unusual show? Yeah, I got
because
it.
There's always this.
Me and Bob Seibel. I want to say Drake it. Comedy on the bar. I kid you not.
You stand on the bar?
Right. Well, we walk in, and we heard about this because Donovan was there. Mike Donovan was there a week before. And there was 100 people. But we go in and there's like 12. It's a nightmare. And I kid you not, standing up, here's the bar, and here's the base of the mic stand, and you got to get up on the bar and perform standing on the bar. And it's set in the front of the building with a big flag, Comedy on the Bar.
Frank Santorelli.
Hey.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it. It was a good time, and hope to see you again.
Frank Santorelli from The Sopranos.
Frank Santorelli from The Sopranos.
Greg Boggis, hilariously funny man off stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
It was
much.
Fun. Thank you for watching this episode of The Boggis Hour. And a special thanks to Frank Santorelli, our guest. For more information about Frank, go to his website. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again. Have a good night.